to the Hammersholt 6th grade science screencast of Succession of Bodies of Water. Come on in and enjoy the show! As you watch this screencast, you can stop it at any time to go back to hear something again. You will need to have the following materials available while watching: the handout titled Succession of Bodies of Water Screencast, your textbook, and something to write with. If you have all of your materials, then let's get started. The big question: how do bodies of water change over time? By the end of the screencast, you should be able to identify the differences between ponds and lakes, define the term eutrophication and explain its role in succession, and explain the differences in each of the 4 stages of pond succession. It's a pond! No. It's a lake! No, it's... We will first take a look in our textbook to determine the difference between a pond and a lake. Turn to textbook page 32. Read the section titled, What are Ponds and Lakes? Complete the Venn diagram, question 1, on your handout as you read. Stop the video now and press play when you are done with the Venn diagram. Let's check your diagram. Be sure to stop the video if you need to add or change information on your paper. Ponds. Smaller than a lake, sunlight reaches the bottom of all parts. Lakes. Larger than ponds, some parts are too deep for sunlight to reach. Both. Still water, supplied by rainfall, melting snow and ice, runoff. Form when water collects in hollow, low-lying areas of land. Stop the video and answer questions 2 and 3 on your handout. The questions: how do you think ponds and lakes can undergo succession? Make a claim and support with reasoning. Which body of water would undergo succession easier, a pond or a lake? Make a claim and support with reasoning. The next few slides will show you how ponds and lakes undergo succession. You will revisit these 2 questions later to add to your answers. Now it is time to examine how eutrophication plays a role in the succession of bodies of water. Stop the video and read text page 34 and answer question 4 on your handout. Let's check your answers. The buildup of nutrients over time in fresh water, lakes, and ponds leads to an increase in growth of algae, forming a layer on the lake's and pond's surface. This layer could block sunlight, causing organisms to die. Decaying materials pile up on the bottom, making the lakes and ponds shallower. Let's see how the process of pond succession begins. A geological event, such as a glacier or sinkhole, can create the pond. Ponds are nothing more than shallow holes where water collects. Yet, if left alone, ponds will fill in with dirt and debris until they become land. It often takes hundreds of years for a pond to be transformed from a body of clear water into soil. Successions of bodies of water occurs in 4 stages. We will look at each stage to determine what happens in each. Stage 1 is named simply pond. As a pond develops, seeds are flown in by birds and land animals come to inhabit the pond. These are the pond pioneers. As more creatures arrive, the debris on the bottom increases. Pondweed and other submergent vegetation appears and soon grow all along the bottom. Emergent plants have roots underwater while part of their bodies resides above the water line. Emergents start to appear on the edges of the pond. Over time, sometimes hundreds of years, as pond plants grow, die and decompose, layers of debris build up. These layers of decaying matter raise the pond floor over the years. Stage 2. After some time, the pond floor is close enough to the bottom that emergents can grow all the way across the floor. When this happens, the ponds become a bog. Many interesting creatures can reside in the shallow, muddy waters of bogs. The bog continues to fill in with dirt and debris. Eventually, trees grow in the water. It is now a swamp and it is in stage 3. Swamps are very wet land. Over time, the swamp may dry out and become solid ground. When this happens, we now refer to it as land, and this is stage 4. Land that was once a pond may one day form an ecosystem, such as a forest or grassland, depending on the abiotic factors present. Examine the pictures to see how both the water and land have changed. Label the stage of pond succession each picture is in. Write your answers on question 5. You may use a stage more than once. Picture 1, pond. Picture 2, pond. Picture 3 is also a pond. It is still a large body of water. There is plant life developing on the bottom of the pond. Picture 4 is a bog. Notice how the body of water is now shallow. Picture 5 is a swamp. Now the land is very wet. Finally, the last picture is land. What was once a pond is now solid ground. Let's summarize, boys and girls. In Section A, what begins as a pond gradually fills with organic and inorganic sediments, which shrink the area of the pond. In Section B, a bog forms. The area is still very wet with a body of water still visible. In Section C, the area is now considered a swamp. The land is saturated with water. And in Section D, the final stage here, not pictured, would be firm soil land. Here we go! Let's look at these familiar commercial characters. In what stage of succession are they a part of? Record your answer on question 6 on the handout. Support your claim with evidence. Please pause the video now. Let's check your understanding. These men are standing in a bog. A bog is an area that is covered in shallow water. Use this helpful trick to remember the stages of pond succession. The first letter of each part of the sentence stands for a stage of pond succession. Remember, PBSL, peanut butter sandwich lunch, pond, bog, swamp, land. Okay, class, go back to questions number 2 and 3 on your handout. Add any newly learned information to the questions. Here is a brief summary of the ideas you should include in question number 2. Bodies of water get shallower over time as debris from the land falls into the water and gets trapped. This debris builds up the bottom of the lake and pond and eventually fills in the area that was once covered in water. Here is a brief summary for number 3. It would be easier for a pond to undergo succession because it is already shallower than a lake and it will take less time to fill in. Woohoo! You have finished watching the screencast on successions of bodies of water. Be sure your handout is complete. File your handout back into the rings of your binder. Have a great night!